I'm here to do my predictions for UFC Fight Night Andrade versus Zhang. Let's start them on. The first fight is bad. I can't say his full name. It's his last name is Dana versus Hella or Heli. Lot of crazy names on this card. Both these guys are making their debut. I think Dana's the much better striker. He's from Mongolia. Um, his record's 6-1, and he actually has a decision win over Kai Kara France, who's a really good striker in his own right. The other guy is kind of just an overall well-rounded guy, but he's not super great. His record's like 13-7. I think Dana keeps on the feet and just wins by knockout sooner or later. Next is Caroline Rosa versus Laura. I can't say her last name. It's hard to tell. A lot of people on this card are making their debut, and it's a really small card other than the main event. So I've seen these chicks fight. They both look like decent up-and-comers. I just don't know who's the better fighter in all honesty, because I feel like Caroline's fought the better people. Her record's 11-3 and Laura's like 6-0. So I'm leaning towards Caroline, but I think we're going to see in this fight one of these chicks is going to out-grapple the shit out of the other one. I just haven't seen them fight, so I don't know which one that is. I'm just leaning towards Caroline because I think she's fought the better people. Next is Demir, I can't say his last name, versus Thiago Moises. And to me, Demir's looked good so far in the UFC. He's 2-0. Both fights he was super dominant. My only problem with him is that even though he looked good in both those fights, I haven't seen anything amazing from him. He looks like a technical striker with good takedown defense, but that's it. To me, Thiago Moises, he's fought two good dudes, and he looked really, well, three. He was on Dana White looking for a fight. And in his last fight, he super impressed me. His striking looked 10 times better from the fight before, and his ground game has always been strong, but he looks really good. I think Demir's probably a little bit better overall, but Thiago Moises just impressed the crap out of me in his last fight. If he got better from that fight to this one like he did from his last one, I think he's going to win by knockout or submission in the first round. So I'm leaning towards Thiago. Like I said, I was just so impressed with him. I think he's going to pull off the upset. Next is Dan Jung versus Kahids. I can't say his last name. And to me, this is kind of like, I think Kahids is pretty much just a top game submission guy. And he's taking this fight in really short notice. He's undefeated 8-0, but he's just kind of fought okay people, kind of shitty in all honesty. Dong Jung, kind of the same. He's only fought okay people. His record's like 10-2. I think all of his wins other than one have come by knockout. He's like a sprawling brawler. This one's tough because I feel like either Kahids is just going to take him down and control him, or Ung is going to be able to keep it on the feet and just kind of knock him out. I'm leaning towards Jung just because he had more time to prepare for this fight. I think Kahids has taken this fight on 2 or 3 weeks' notice, and I do feel like Jung has just fought better people. So I'm leaning towards Jung. I think he wins by TKO in the second round. Next is Su, can't say his last name, versus Andre Sukumtov. And these are two really good strikers going to go at it. I think Su's a little bit better of a striker. I think Andre, is probably a little bit better of a grappler, but this fight's really close. It's kind of just who's going to land that first big shot, because I think both these guys are just going to go out there and swing as hard as they can for as long as they can. I guess I'm going to slightly lean towards Andre just because he's never been finished, as where Su has. But like I said, I think one of these guys is going to knock each other out in the first round. I think they're just going to go out there and fucking fight for as long as they are going to fight. I think it's going to be a great fight. It even could be fight of the night, just the way these guys fight. But yeah, I think one of these guys is going to knock out the other one in the first round. I'm slightly leaning towards Andre just because I think he's a little bit tougher. Next is Anthony Hernandez versus Jung Young Park. And to me, Park has looked really good recently. He's on like a 5 or 6 fight win streak. I think his record's like 10-2. He started out like 4-2 or something like that, but since then he's gone, like I said, a 5 or 6 fight win streak, and he's beating some really good dudes. Anthony Hernandez, his record's like 7 or 8-1. He lost his USA debut, but he's looked good in all the fights other than that. It's really tough because both these guys are kind of wrestlers with that like to throw hands and have good submissions, like front chokes and shit like that. They're very similar stylistically. I don't know which of these guys is better. It's really tough just because, like I said, I haven't seen either of them fight a ton of elite level competition. Park has probably fought a little bit more than Hernandez, but like I said, this whole card's like that. It's just a whole bunch of guys who are making their debuts or have only had like one fight in the UFC. I'm slightly leaning towards Park. I do think Hernandez is probably a little bit strong of a wrestler, so he could maybe grind it out against the fence if he needed to, but I'm just leaning towards Park. I like his striking a little bit more, and I think that he's just the better finisher of the two. I feel like Hernandez has fought not as many good people. He's fought some decent people here and there, but I just feel like Park, I prefer his win streak, and I just think he's looked a little bit better, so I'm leaning towards Park to win by finish in maybe the first or second round. Really close fight, though. Next fight is Keenan Song versus Derek Kantz, and this is a lot like the Sue versus Andrei Sukimtov fight. I think these guys are just going to go out there and fucking swing with each other for as long as this fight lasts. I do think Derek Kantz is a little bit better of a striker. I think on the ground, it's probably about even. Kantz is probably a little bit better of a submission threat, but I think their grappling's about even. Like I said, this one could go either way, but I'm just slightly leaning towards Kantz. I think he's just a little bit better of a striker, and I think he's going to catch Song. Like I said, this is my pick for fight of the night. This or the co-main event on the card. But yeah, I'm leaning towards Kantz. I think this fight's another close one, but I think he catches him towards the end of the first, beginning of the second. Next is Wu Yanyang versus Mizuki Ino. And to me, Wu looks like she's decent everywhere, not super amazing anywhere. Mizuki's primarily just a jiu-jitsu chick. It's tough because I haven't seen Wu really fight anybody, as were Mizuki. You know, she's 14-4 from Japan. She looks like a good grappler. I'm slightly leaning towards Mizuki. I just think she's the stronger grappler, and I think she's just going to win at least 2 of the 3 rounds. Next is Liu Zihong versus Mazvar Olivian. And Muzavar, these guys have already fought once, and I feel like we've already seen he's a really strong wrestler. He won the first fight 30-27 on all cards. And that wasn't that long ago. That was like a year and a half ago, maybe less. I think Musavar is going to do the exact same thing. I think he's just going to be the much stronger wrestler and grind out Liu for 3 rounds and win a 30-27 decision. Like I said, we've already seen, even though it wasn't the UFC, it was like in China or something like that. I can already tell. Like, his wrestling's really strong, and he's just going to do the same thing again. Next, we got Kai Kara-France versus Mark De La Rosa. And, you know, Mark De La Rosa is good with his chokes, and he's good at mixing his boxing with his wrestling. But I think France, as long as he minds his P's and Q's, I think his takedown defense and striking are both better than Mark De La Rosa. And as long as he doesn't get caught with something crazy or isn't sloppy with his takedown defense, I think he should be able to win all 3 rounds and win a 30-27 decision. Kai Kara-France, that is. Next is Eloise Dos Santos versus Li Jingliang. And these are 2 really good strikers. I think, you know, Dos Santos is ranked really low in the top 15. He's like 14-15, which he deserves. He's definitely top 15. Li Jingliang, you know, he's kind of been one of those guys who's like right outside the top 15. You know, he's been ranked between like 16 and 20. They don't go that far, but, you know what I mean? You can tell. He's like right outside the top 15. They're both really good strikers who have, you know, good wrestling. They don't use it a ton, but when they do use it, they usually get takedowns. Like I said, I think either this fight or the fucking Song fight or the Andrei Sukimtov fight, one of those 3 fights is winning fight of the night. You know, these look like the 3 most exciting fights on the card. I just think Dos Santos is a little bit better of a striker. I think Lee kind of tends to get wild if he isn't dominating, and I don't think he will be able to dominate Santos. And Santos has always had this weird fucking crazy ability where it's like he just seems to get better as fights go on. It seems like even if he's losing in the beginning, he kind of like figures out guys' timing as it's going on. Like, even if he gets hit a lot, it's really weird. Like, he just, you know, somehow gets significantly better as the fight goes on. Like, and it's not necessarily a condition thing. It's like a striking thing. Like, his striking just seems to be more and more on point the longer fights go. Like, I'm not saying shit like that doesn't happen, but it seems like every single fight I've ever seen him in, his striking just seems to get more on point as the rounds go on. So that's the most impressive thing about him, in my opinion. And I think that's what we're going to see in this fight. I think Lee might get the first, and then when he starts to kind of get a little bit more wild and Dos Santos starts to get his timing a little bit more, we're going to see Dos Santos start to take over. I don't know if he'll get a finish, but I do think he's going to win at least 2 of the 3 rounds. So I got Dos Santos winning a 29-28 decision. Finally, we got Jessica Andrade versus Weili Zhang. And to me, these chicks fight the exact same way. They're very forward pressure, very high volume, very wrestling, very cardio-based. They push very high paces. They go for takedowns. They like to throw big shots. I just feel like Jessica Andrade does everything better. I think they fight the exact same way, but I think she hits harder. I think she throws more volume, and I think she's the stronger wrestler of the 2. And I think this fight will go probably all 5 rounds unless one of them catches each other. You never know. But I do think Andrade, like I said, she hits harder, so she'll probably be the one that does that. But either way, like I said, these 2 chicks fight the exact same way, and I've never seen Jessica Andrade get tired at strawweight. Never. And, you know, I'm not saying I've seen Zhang get tired, but she did slow down a little bit against Tisha Torres. And these chicks are fighting at the pace I think they're going to fight at. I think Andrade is going to get like a 4th round finish. I think they'll be fighting at the same pace until Zhang slows down, because I do think of the two, her cardio is not as good as Andrade. So, anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Please like and subscribe.